Welcome to Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. The Indigenous Boutique and Spa hasn't been in operation that long, but their services are in demand, often booked weeks in advance. Business is a passion for co-owner Jade Blankenship, who is one of this year's 40 Under 40. She's sharing that passion with other budding entrepreneurs. Native rights are a priority for Passamaquoddy Corey Hinton, who was instrumental in securing tribal exclusivity for online gaming in Maine. We'll hear from these and others who are on this year's list of young Native standouts making a difference in their communities. That's right after the news.
This is National Native News. I'm Antonia Gonzalez. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is in China for the first visit by a Canadian leader in almost a decade. Already, he signed a memorandum of understanding with Beijing that could result in more Canadian oil and gas exported to China. As Dan Karpenchuk reports, before he left, Carney met with coastal First Nations in British Columbia to discuss his energy export plans.
The meeting was held in Prince Rupert, and on the agenda, as expected, Ottawa's major projects. The coastal First Nations, made up of 9 First Nations, try to ensure that they have a say in how resources and waters are managed. They also work to protect the Great Bear Rainforest and the British Columbia coastline, and they have strongly opposed the idea of a new pipeline or the end of a ban on the moratorium on oil tankers. Both are major components of Ottawa's plans to diversify Canada's trade in energy and move away from dependency on the U.S., especially now in the era of uncertainty caused by President Donald Trump. But coastal First Nations remain opposed to any new pipeline to the BC coast. Carney played down expectations, saying that the meeting was more about dialogue to explore ways they could work together. But the coastal chiefs are not budging on their opposition, according to the group's president, Marilyn Slett.
We reiterated that there is no technology that can clean up an oil spill at sea, and that it would take just one spill to destroy our way of life. We shared our reliance on a healthy and intact ocean and our determination to protect the ocean and the ecosystem that we rely upon.
Without their support, Carney's government appears to be in a lose-lose situation. Coastal chiefs say they will use every tool available to stop construction if Ottawa pushes ahead with the North Coast pipeline. For National Native News, I'm Dan Karpenchuk.
The holidays may be over, but Alaskans across the state recently celebrated Russian Orthodox Christmas and New Year. A celebration in Anchorage brought together people who could not celebrate with their families or in church. Ayolna Naiden has more.
Singers in kaspaks and headscarves chant Christmas hymns in English, Yupik, Russian, and Church Slavonic. Next to them, 3 young men spin sparkling pinwheel-shaped stars on wooden poles, each with an Orthodox icon of a nativity scene in the center.
Christ is born.
The group is gathered for a Russian Christmas celebration hosted by the Alaska Native Medical Center at their primary care clinic. The singers are from St. Innocent Russian Orthodox Cathedral Choir in Anchorage, though most of them are originally from the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. Alaska Orthodox Archbishop Alexei was a part of the opening of Staring, or Slavic, a custom, he says, originated in the Carpathian Mountains in Eastern Europe.
Beautiful tradition that has been in Alaska for over 100 years.
Akalena Patricia Lekanov-Gregory is from Alaska and grew up singing hymns in Aleut and Russian. Her family always gathered around Slavic to decorate stars for the celebration. Gregory says she wants to pass down the tradition to the next generation.
Because it's our history. You know, it's been coming over all the way from Ukraine, from Russia, and still being sung today.
The best part of the night for Gregory is having a big feast, sometimes until 2 in the morning. And she loves it when the songs make people move. She remembers one song from her childhood that shifted between fast and slow tempo.
You could see the people kind of dance or move to it. Not supposed to dance in church, right? But this song they always did, all the elders.
Gregory says she was happy to attend Slavic at the primary care center to bring comfort and healing to patients. I am Alona Naiden.
And I'm Antonia Gonzalez.
National Native News is produced by Koahnic Broadcast Corporation with funding by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Now more than ever, the supporters of this and all Native Voice One programs deserve a little extra love. Learn more about all our public radio underwriters and web-based sponsors at koahnic.org/sponsors-spotlight.
Tribal Development Partners, helping tribes build toward their goals through 105L leasing and essential facility development, empowering sovereignty, strengthening community. More at tribaldevpartners.com, proud supporters of this show.
Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.
This is Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. Colville Tribe citizen Jade Blankenship had a shaky start before finding success as an entrepreneur. She was discouraged after a number of dead ends, but she gave it another try with her sister and started Indigenous Boutique and Spa in Cherokee, North Carolina, where they earned the title Native Women Business Owners of the Year. Jade is now advising other budding entrepreneurs with her own nonprofit teaching financial literacy. Dakota Lewis's story of inspiration is in a completely different arena. The Northern Cheyenne Bull Rider is well known on the rodeo circuit, competing everywhere from the Indian National Finals Rodeo to the largest rodeo in Latin America. We can't talk to all of this year's 40 Under 40 honorees from the National Center for Native American Indian Enterprise Development, but we can give you an idea of the passion and vision it takes to earn this prestigious recognition. You can also join this conversation with a comment or question. Just give us a call. The number is 1-800-996-2848. That's also 1-800-99-NATIVE. Give a shout out to one of our 40 Under 40 honorees on the show today. Joining us now from Big Cypress, Florida is Dakota Lewis, a professional bull rider. He is Northern Cheyenne, Cree, and Blackfeet. Dakota, congratulations and welcome to Native America Calling.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And from Cherokee, North Carolina, we're joined by Jade Blankenship. She is the co-owner of Indigenous Boutique and Spa and a founder of Uwena. She is a citizen of the Confederated Tribes of the Colville Reservation and is also Spokane and Eastern Band of Cherokee. Jade, congratulations and welcome to you as well.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you both on the show. And Dakota, I want to begin with you. Of course, you're among names on this year's 40 Under 40 list, and this includes a range of Native people. Some are working in tribal government, some are entrepreneurs giving back to their communities. What's it like for you to be recognized now for your success?
For me, I'm still kind of in disbelief, just as a kid from the res that had small dreams that turned into a reality that I get to live through every day. I'm just super thankful, and to be amongst so many other great 40 Under 40 winners as well. And I'm truly honored. And every year that I've gotten to go to the 40 Under 40 to watch some of my friends receive the acknowledgement or just to be there in attendance, I was just super inspired by each and every one of them in whatever field it was. And so I want to give thanks to all those that was, inspired us to strive forward as Native people and to see the power that we have. So, I'm just, I'm super thankful to be a 40 Under 40 winner this year.
I really like how you described yourself as a kid from the res with big dreams. I think so many of our listeners right now can relate to what you're describing. Now, Dakota, in other interviews, you talk about rodeo as being more than a sport. It's part of your family legacy. Can you talk about how far back this all goes with your family?
We were born and raised there in Browning, Montana on the Blackfeet Reservation. My family has been in the ranching and farming industry for the last 5 generations, along with competing at the rodeos. And it's been a way of life for me growing up. our big rodeo every year, our fair that everybody looked forward to, was something that we really cherished from a childhood time, and just growing into being one of them guys that was able to, ride on TV and ride at some of the events. And I'm still I feel like I'm a kid, just living a dream still, getting to train and do things that I love to do every single day still. And now I get to show my kids exactly my passion as well. So, I'm super thankful that Creator had put me in this position. And, I really commend a lot of the other 40 under 40 winners in the past too, because of some of the work that they have done and what they continue to do. I don't know. I feel like for my name just to be in there, I'm a pretty lucky guy.
Tell me more about this big rodeo down in Brazil. What was that experience like, and who were the competitors that you were facing off against?
So it's Barretos, Brazil. It's one of the biggest watched rodeos in the world attended. There's 180,000 per night. It's the best 40 bull riders in Brazil. I got a national invite this year. And I've come back from an injury that I had gotten there, August of 2024. And so it was a long journey of healing and mentally refocusing I'm just super thankful that I got that opportunity. But to go over there and to see the culture that they have, I feel like their main sport is soccer and bull riding. And I mean, if you're good at one of those, they dang sure treated us very well. And
I've heard that before. Huge cowboy culture down there in Brazil.
Yeah, no, I honestly, it made me respect the entire culture even more, seeing it in their perspective and the way they go about things. They're very thankful that they get to do it, and they're world class. Honestly, I really took that just all the way around, from the hospitality to the events. I mean, it was a top of the line experience, and I was a little bit nervous because I had never been out of the country besides Canada, and so coming back from an injury, I guess doing all this, I said, you know what, Father Time never slows down, and one day I know I'm going to be happy that I did it. So I went ahead and took the invite and went for it.
Yeah,
we had
this
some
is
luck
awesome.
over there, so
Dakota, I'm looking at your profile on the PBR website, and I mean, you've just competed all over the country, numerous, big time rodeo events. And what amazes me and I admire so much about you is you have done all of this while being a single father. Early on in your career, you became a single father. So tell me a little bit how you balance all of these competing priorities and yet you're still so successful.
Early on, I just had a really strong passion for riding bulls, and I just felt like it was in my it was just meant to be, and my son, he's 8, and for the first 4 years of his life, he was going every other weekend to the biggest bull ridings across the country on the PBR tour, and getting to call the best bull riders in the world uncles, and to have that lifestyle and experience for him. I mean, I was thankful that I had the support from everybody to be able to do it. And I know it wasn't ideal, but I'm very thankful that we did, because it had brought in so many more experiences, moving forward with helping out with youth clinics and youth groups, and man, it's just been a amazing blessing.
Another really exciting aspect of your career, you were featured on a series. It was streamed on Amazon Prime. It's called The Ride. It's a documentary type expose of different rodeo athletes. Tell me about that project and just some of the other work you do as a mentor for younger people interested in the sport of rodeo.
We were lucky enough to be a part of the Amazon Prime documentary series. Me along 6 other of the professional bull riders that were on some of the other teams, and it was the first year ever the team series had gotten together, and they had followed us from the start of the season all the way through the end of the finals, and it got to show a lot of more in depth of what a bull rider goes through day to day, and just the different cultures that we all come from. I know there was a couple of Brazilians that were on there, a couple guys, a couple other Americans, and I was pretty blown away with just getting the opportunity. It was different having cameras in front of us all the time, even during the more tougher times. But to look back on that in 20, 30 years and get to show my son that, and now he has a little brother and sister, so it'd be something just for him to be proud of as well, I hope.
Dakota Lewis, professional bull rider and also a 40 under 40 honoree, kicking off our conversation here today on Native America Calling. And we have more 40 under 40 honorees on the show today. We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back and we will talk with Jade Blankenship. She and her sister have a very successful business in Cherokee, North Carolina, Indigenous Boutique and Spa. So we're going to hear from Jade, and we have a couple of other 40 under 40 honorees who we will hear from later in the show. Of course, we have the phone lines open right now. So if you'd like to give us a call, if you would like to ask one of these folks a question or maybe just congratulate them yourself, or maybe you are a 40 under 40 honoree yourself and you'd like to make that known, or a previous 40 under 40 honoree, either way, you can give us a call. The number is 1-800-996-2848. That is a direct line to our studio in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We've got our producers. They're standing by. They'll take your call, and you can join the show as well. We always enjoy it when we have listeners who enter the conversation. So again, that phone number, 1-800-996-2848, or just 1-800-99-NATIVE. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Martin Luther King Jr. is the figurehead for the civil rights movement that ushered in equity in education, voting, housing, and workers' rights. Milestones that benefit all people of color. As we mark the day set aside to honor King, we will assess how his civil rights legacy is holding up. That's on the next Native America Calling.
Repatriation is the return of ancestors and stolen culture. The Association on American Indian Affairs is hosting the 11th annual Repatriation Conference, Feeding the Fire, Advancing the Movement, in February 2026. This fully virtual conference will offer small group interactive workshops, strategies, networking, and more to advance domestic and international repatriation. More at Indian-Affairs.org. The association supports this show.
Thank you for listening to Native America Calling. We are joined today by a small sample of the outstanding Native professionals honored this year by the National Center for American Indian Enterprise Development. They include names from tribal communities all around the country. And if you would like to join our conversation today, just give us a call. The number is 1-800-996-2848. That is also 1-800-99-NATIVE. Let's get some calls going, folks. Just pick up that phone, 1-800-996-2848. Share your thoughts. We have Jade Blankenship on the line, Cherokee, North Carolina, co-owner of Indigenous Boutique and Spa. Jade, you have this thriving business. You also have a growing nonprofit. To what do you attribute your success?
Yeah, thank you. So I really think that it's been kind of a trusting process through my journey. I moved my life to North Carolina kind of with the only plan of going to school. And I came here and finished my undergrad and had all these plans that I had laid out for myself, and they didn't quite go as I had planned. And so I trusted just kind of what was going to be in my future. And that was a long, challenging event where it took a couple of years. And after that, I think that the fruit of what I waited for is now what I'm getting to live, which is, encourage other people to be entrepreneurs, pour into people in my community, work alongside my sister, and yeah.
Now, as I understand it, Indigenous Boutique and Spa, this all began right around the beginning of the pandemic. Can you walk us through that whole process of how you embarked on this financial journey, entrepreneurship, and how you got this business set up? Because I've driven by your business many times, and it's really impressive.
Yeah, so it's actually a really funny story. When I didn't get to work for our local tribal government like I had planned, or I kind of thought about moving away when I finished undergrad, and like none of those things happened. And so throughout that process, my husband, before we were married and even after we were married, he was like, I stayed home for a few years, and he said, I really think that you should open up a business with your sister. And at the time, she was already a licensed esthetician. And so I was like, it's really a bad idea. I'm not interested. And he said it over and over again, like, you could run a boutique and she could do clients, and I really think that you should consider it. And so my husband's a very smart man, so I didn't take what he said lightly, but I just wasn't in a place where I wanted to do that. And so after lockdown during COVID, it was kind of my last opportunity. My sister was contemplating moving back to Washington State, where we're from, and my husband said it's now or never. So I pitched her the idea of opening up a day spa boutique and said, I can learn how to do what you do, and I can teach you how to run a business, and maybe one day you go back home, or, maybe we franchise this, and I think it could be really, really awesome. And so she said yes, and we applied for a loan. We were approved, which was even more crazy considering the times that we were in, and we've been thriving ever since.
Now, you had some setbacks early on. Tell me more about those and how you handled those early challenges.
The setbacks was just kind of like having to understand that, like, I went to school for something and then I ended up in a completely different place. And so I really struggled with kind of having to be trusting of what was meant to happen. Like, okay, you go to school and now all of a sudden you're going to beauty school, and this isn't really what you were thinking about doing in the middle of, going through intermediate accounting too. Like, wait, now I'm going to be doing eyebrows? Like, that didn't make any sense. And so I just trusted God throughout that whole process. And so fast forward that to now, I get to juggle all the things that I love. Like, I've loved beauty and I've loved makeup and I've loved people. And so I get to do that, in our business, bonding with our clients and our customers. And then I also get to run our nonprofit now and teach financial literacy, which taps into those things that I learned, getting my degree. And it truly was a trust the process and depend on God through that.
Now, right now you have this business. It's in Cherokee. I'm on the website right now and looking at some of the different services, wide range, facials, massage. You have it all, a full spa. What are your plans, though? Are you focused on just maintaining this one location, or are you looking to expand at some point?
I definitely want to expand. I would love for a young woman to come in here who's, maybe thought about the idea of opening up a similar business. I really think back to being a younger Native kid and thinking, oh, I have to go to college or I have to do this. And a lot of these younger kids now are going into trades and they're going into different skill sets. And so, maybe someone goes to beauty school or cosmetology school and they want to open a business. I mean, I would love to mentor someone and teach them how to do what we did and how to be successful.
Would you ever consider franchising this?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. What would that take?
I think it would just take someone interested. I mean, my husband and I have talked about, coming up with a franchise packet to offer that one day. Between us and the things that we juggle, we are really busy. And so I think that, that just needs to be kind of set on my goal on the forefront. And it just takes the right person who's willing to take the risk to say, I'd love to open this up, on my reservation or in a city that I live in, and just give that Indigenous representation. Like, that would be truly a dream come true.
And with all of this work you have there at the boutique, you and your sister working full-time plus a lot of additional hours, you still have the nonprofit. Tell me more about the nonprofit and the type of training you do and where that fits in with all of your career.
It's kind of funny thinking back of like when we started Uwena. I think we had talked about it, my husband and I. He did some philanthropy work, and so we knew that there was definitely a need for financial literacy in our community. And it was kind of one of those things that I just said, okay, I'm willing and able, let's do it. And then boom, we did it. And we founded our nonprofit, and we started brainstorming ways to teach people about financial literacy, and we did a strategic plan. And so right now we've hosted virtual and in-person meetings in our community to start teaching people we've created a curriculum with 7 core principles of financial literacy.
Yeah, super exciting. That's a topic that's close to my heart too. Jay, tell me more about your customer base. Is it mostly folks there, EBCI members in and around Cherokee, or are you drawing from some of the other neighboring communities as well?
So you're familiar that, this area is very much known for travel and tourism. So initially I kind of thought that this would be something that we would have a lot of tourist traffic and tourist customer base. And while we do have the opportunity to service some tourists, we really do survive and thrive because of our local community, and that is our main client base. We have people that come in and regularly, get facials, and they get massages and eyebrow services, and we truly could not be sustaining like we have if we didn't have that connection with our community.
And I imagine you and your sister can't do this all on your own. How big is your staff?
We have 6 people. So shortly after we opened, I kind of pitched that to my sister, like, hey, you learn how to do what I do, and I learn how to do what you do. And that kind of happened right away. And most of that was job security. I wanted to make sure that if Jensen got sick, that I would be able to service clients and, pay the bills. So there were seasons of our business where it was just the 2 of us, and we were trying to run the front desk and keep up with laundry and keep up with clients. But right now, we are in a place where we have 2 front desk staff workers who work 5 days a week, and we have a massage therapist that works part-time, and then ourselves and 1 other esthetician.
Well, right on, Jade. Really happy for all of your success. Will you be attending the ceremony in Las Vegas to officially accept your award?
Yes, I will. I'm looking forward to it. I cannot wait.
Right on. Well, safe travels to you, and also safe travels to Dakota Lewis. And phone lines are open for anyone who'd like to join this conversation today. Give a shout out to one of our 40 Under 40 honorees. They were just announced recently. 1-800-996-2848. Again, 1-800-996-2848. And we have another 40 Under 40 honoree on the line right now. From Ithaca, New York is Dr. Michael Charles. He's on the line. He is an assistant professor in the Department of Biological and Environmental Engineering at Cornell University, and he is Dene. Michael, congratulations and welcome to Native America Calling.
Thank you so much. Yeah, happy to be here. Looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, I am too. Well, let's talk first about the research you're currently engaged in. Can you describe it for our listeners and what drew you to it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say at the big picture, what we're really interested in our group is thinking around sustainability from all sorts of different lenses. Kind of in the broad view, we think around any intersections between technology, ecology, and society, which obviously covers a lot of things. But one thing that we're really interested in is taking the tools we learn in the classroom as engineers, so thinking around the math, the sciences, the computer sciences, and figuring out how do we actually go make impacts in our communities that we're from. And so a lot of our work, we're able to work with a lot of indigenous communities from back home in the Southwest, Navajo Nation, all the way up to communities more local here in Haudenosaunee areas. And yeah, we are interested in all sorts of things, from where are minerals going to impact tribes and tribal lands in the context of energy transitions, and thinking around how climate's going to impact food production in certain regions. And yeah, we're trying to tackle a lot of things, but luckily we have a good team to do it as well.
And you're there at Cornell University, Ivy League school. Do they have a lot of projects similar to yours, working with indigenous voices and knowledge on various aspects of research?
Not a ton. Yeah, it's one thing that I think really sets our group apart and being very unique. I was hired on as part of a cohort hire around people who all sorts of research and impacts that it could have to underrepresented communities. And part of that cohort, we also have another assistant professor, Stephen Johnson, who's Native Hawaiian. So he's doing a lot of this work in kind of the island context, in the ocean context, and I get to do a lot of this around desert, rural, and some of these more woodlands areas. And so between the two of us, we do a lot, but there's not a ton of other indigenous faculty, at least in the life sciences and natural sciences and engineering. There's a handful of others in arts, humanities, things like that.
Now, I know part of your research, it deals with the locations of minerals. Can you talk more about that and how it benefits tribes?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing we were learning about as we were kind of just thinking around what sustainability will mean in terms of energy context in the future, we were looking through all these projections of all the minerals and mining that we're going to need to do. And we kind of also know the kind of the state of the world and thinking around the sustainability of international trade. And so really understanding that we are going to likely see a huge shift towards a lot more domestic mining. And that's just going to be a huge part of this shift towards renewable energy systems between solar and wind. So we were interested in, okay, so what minerals are we going to need, and then where do those exist? And one thing that we really found, and we saw another kind of report that targeted this, was a lot of these are around tribal lands, whether it's directly on these lands or within about 30-mile boundaries, which is about what we know is around kind of where water would leach. So any sort of mining fluid, groundwater within kind of that 30-mile radius could be potentially and likely will be contaminated. So that's where it kind of all started from, was just kind of thinking through, so how will this impact us? And so we started kind of digging into these known data sets. And one thing we realized was the mining industries know where these are. The question was, do native peoples or indigenous peoples that might be impacted by this? And are we ready to have these conversations around sovereignty and making these decisions between how might we choose to interact and engage with these renewable energy transitions? So our goal was just to kind of get as much data as we could in the context and localized context of tribes. And we're working on getting that all kind of set up and published and out to the communities. So trying to get it kind of packaged in a way that we can send the specific data set for a tribe to their tribal offices. And so we have most of the work completed, but we'll have a team of undergraduates from the university that are going to help us do a lot of the outreach as well. And so that's kind of the story behind that project.
Now, Michael, you've also done research on land-grant institutions and, of course, the connection to native lands. Tell us more about that and what made that work memorable for you.
Yeah, absolutely. This all kind of stemmed from the pretty popular report that came out from Tristan Natone and Robert Lee, who was at Oxford, when they kind of published, I think it was 2020, at the end of 2020, around Land Grab U was the name of it, or Land Grab Universities. And at the time, I was actually at Ohio State doing a postdoc. And that was also a land-grant university, and we had just applied for this grant around racial justice in the kind of the time of 2020 when there was a lot of tension, and it was coming right out of kind of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter, and there was a lot of movement in this area around racial justice. And so we were able to bring this, get it funded at Ohio State, actually, and then really open this question of, all right, so if these land-grant institutions originally were built off of selling, land, where did this land come from? And that was the question that Tristan Atone and Bobby Lee were really able to connect. And then they were able to connect it to these parcels and which sessions. So thinking around which treaties, whether they were ratified or not, what would have been the historic signing names that would have been associated with all of these land parcels. And so that was the database that they were able to create. Out of our interest, we wanted to kind of think through, so what does this mean in terms of present day? And so one of the pieces that we were able to come up with was connecting all of those historic signing nations to present day tribes and present day tribal governments, and then thinking around where might these people have come from to where are they now, and what is the story around food sovereignty in those lands. And so what we were able to connect some of the spatial data with was thinking around food security rates, children food security rates, thinking around even the cost of meals that have changed that would be spatially. Again, this is all going to be present day data, but the difference of where would have this community traditionally come from to where are they now. We were able to kind of piece together stories behind precipitation and temperature, thinking around if all your knowledge systems were how to grow food in this region, how different is it now where you are? And so thinking all the way from that to soil quality and coming up with these impacts of food sovereignty that stem all the way back to these institutions. And the idea is to kind of piece this together for telling this story and thinking around how can institutions do better today.
All right. Okay, we're going to take a short break. We will come back and talk more with our 40 Under 40 honorees. Stay with us.
Support from Clarkson Potter, publisher of Turtle Island, Foods and Traditions of the Indigenous Peoples of North America by Native American chef Sean Sherman. With ancestral and modern recipes, this cookbook showcases diverse foodways of the continent's regions.
Ready to expand your reach and inspire change? Kaufman & Associates crafts culturally grounded communication strategies for Native audiences. More at kaufmaninc.com, KAUFFMANINC.com.
You're listening to Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce, and we are talking with some recently named Native professionals on this year's 40 Under 40 list by the business organization, the National Center for American Indian Enterprise Development. Plenty of time left for listeners who would like to join us today. Call us. Questions and comments are always welcome. 1-800-996-2848. That number is also 1-800-99-NATIVE. We have Dr. Michael Charles on the line. He's in Ithaca, New York, where he is an assistant professor in the Department of Biological and Environmental Engineering at Cornell University. He is, of course, a 40 Under 40 honoree. And Michael, you have a really cool story about meeting a Navajo person when you first got on the campus of Cornell. Tell our listeners that story and just overall the progress that you feel has been made by academic institutions to bring in more Native professors and students.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I came to Cornell, I did my undergraduate there as well. And when I first came, we were living in Colorado at the time. We drove across the country to New York, and I was living in a Native American program house called a Guego, which means all of us in Mohawk. And so we pull up, and the first language I actually heard on campus was Dene Bazad at Navajo. And it was, of course, the other van pulling up who had driven across the country, of course, was also a Navajo family. And our dads just kind of looked at each other and knew right away and started speaking. And so, yeah, the first language we heard on campus, I think probably about 1,800 miles away, was Dene, which I thought was really, really special and set a tone for, to me, what it has meant to live so far away from home. And yeah, it's been amazing building kind of a community here, being welcomed by Haudenosaunee people, and just being able to kind of embrace being indigenous so far away from where I'm traditionally from as well. Yeah, and so kind of thinking around what you asked around, where are we at? I think one thing that's been a really special moment for me too is when I came back and took this position. My first student was Native from Akwesasne Mohawk, and that project we were talking around food sovereignty and the relation to land-grant institutions is something that that student Peter Tai was working on and is now working on his PhD at Syracuse University. And so it's been a really interesting full circle moment for me and a place that has felt special. But there is that question around, where are we at in terms of institutional progress? And it's kind of hard to say. I would say from a student perspective, we start to see kind of waves of, we get a lot of students a couple, maybe 1 year, and we have a really strong community, and then it starts to taper out as people graduate, and maybe it kind of gets rejuvenated. I think we're still pretty far from what it would look like to have good representation for students to go to classes and for it to be, common that they might have and interact with Indigenous professors. And here it's pretty rare still, unless you're in Indigenous studies or maybe anthropology or something more related to humanities. It's going to be very rare you come across other, as a student, other Indigenous faculty that are going to be teaching you. So there's a lot of ways to go, but I think one thing that's really special is what can we do within our communities. And so most of our Indigenous faculty here, right, we're very involved in with the student groups. I advise, I think, 2 or 3 of the student organizations we have for like ASIS, for the American Indian Science and Engineering Society, and NASAC, which is kind of their Native American students at Cornell, Native American Indigenous students at Cornell. And so I think part of it is just doing the work to build this community and just keep supporting, and the more that we can invest back into the current students, that's the best we can do in increasing these chances that we're going to see more Indigenous faculty. And along the way, we're going to keep trying to poke at the institutions at the highest level to see how we might be able to make that door open a little bit faster.
Michael, I think so many of our listeners can understand these challenges you described, but with the work of folks like you, it sure sounds like we're moving in the right direction. So thanks again for coming on the show, and congratulations with this award.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We still have time for anyone who'd like to join the show, 1-800-996-2848. And with that, we have one more 40 under 40 honoree who we're going to talk with today. He joins us now from Portland, Maine, and his name is Corey Hinton. He is Passamaquoddy and an attorney at Drummond Woodsum. A noted disclosure, Drummond Woodsum is an underwriter for Native America Calling, but that doesn't make a difference with regard to how we will handle this interview with Corey. We will be objective and unbiased by all means. So, Corey, great to have you on the show today. You've been on here before. Welcome back and congratulations.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's good to be back.
Well, let's talk here about the state of Maine. It has given tribes exclusivity to online gaming. How big a win is this for your own tribe, and what does it mean overall for tribal economic development in the state?
Well, this is huge for my community, and we think that the impacts will be felt not just by all the Wabanaki, the tribal communities here, but also the state as a whole. I mean, this is a place where Maine's sort of economic heyday was, a couple of 100 years ago now, and the world economy has changed, and rural Maine, where most of the tribal communities are, has just been really, really economically depressed for a while. And so we're feeling like this is going to be a huge catalyst for our tribal economies. At Passamaquoddy, this has been it was a tribe's primary state legislative priority for the past couple of years, hoping that this will help us sustain bigger, longer pushes to achieve full recognition of our sovereignty in Maine like it should be recognized. But for right now, we are really excited for what this will hold for our future economy.
Well, you mentioned the peak of the Maine economy. It's been a couple 100 years. That was whaling, of course, right? I mean, that was originally what really built the economy there in that part of the country. Now, Corey, you've done work for your tribe and others around the country. You've worked in gaming, of course, but also water rights. What are some other notable legal victories that you've been involved with?
Well, I appreciate the question. Some of the most significant work that I've been doing since I was in law school has been related to water rights protection and water resource management more generally. When I was in law school, I had the amazing opportunity to be just sort of like a student intern supporting implementation of the Gila rights, Gila River Indian Communities Water Rights Settlement. And that was amazing just to learn. I was, 23 years old, being a part of sort of the tail end implementing a historic water rights settlement. That was incredible. And then I worked with the Crow tribe to be a part of the team that put together their legislation and brought it through to enforcement. And that's sort of water rights work has been a sort of guiding light for my career, just focused on natural resource management. That's sort of the ethos of, my community is focus on, protecting nature so it's there for future generations. And so water rights work in the Southwest in particular has been just really, really meaningful. And I've carried that to my work in Maine as well.
Corey, I know other attorneys, and especially early on in their careers, they talk about just working insane amounts of hours, just really just constantly always researching and meetings. I'm curious to know, like how many, what's a typical work week for you, and what keeps you going? What keeps you motivated?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, my typical work week looks a little different than it did when I was starting out. I mean, when I started out, I was in Washington, D.C. at a very, very large law firm, one of the biggest in the world. And my billable hours there were expected to be a lot higher than they are now. I had no kids, I was single. I was much more unattached in a lot of ways and could just do work all the time. Now I have young kids. I take language classes, and I try to be a really present parent and father and husband and just partner to my family. And so I work hard from 9 to 5, and then I deal with, I go home, I pick up the kids, we cook dinner, and I'm with the family. And then I many times I go back to work. I mean, you ask my wife, and I'm answering emails at all hours, frequently putting kids to bed, and then that's when I frequently get my best work done, uninterrupted by client calls, is usually picking it back up at about 9:30 p.m. And working until I fall asleep. That doesn't maybe sound super healthy, and sometimes it isn't, but I'm really passionate about the work that I do, and I'm motivated. I run on adrenaline a lot of times because of the pure fact that I'm helping to build and be a part of building brighter futures for Indigenous communities. Tribal nation building is what I'm most interested in doing through the law. And so that's what motivates me day in and day out, is brighter futures for our kids and our future generations.
Well, it sounds like you're just so passionate and you enjoy what you do so much that there's probably a fine line between sometimes when you're working and you're just having fun. So I really admire that, Corey. And I know the last time that you were on our show, we talked about tribal rights to harvest baby eels, or elvers as they're known. Yep. And what issues come up with tribes accessing or trying to harvest elvers, and how are they important to your community specifically?
Well, I mean, eels, I don't know. I mean, it's just like where I come from, Passamaquoddy, our whole identity is oriented around harvesting from the saltwater certain times a year, and that's always been eels for us. Our treaty notes from 1700s that I've been able to read specifically reference the ability. We need fishing rights to protect our ability to access eels. Like, that's always been a paramount focus of our people. We had an eel clan historically. We've had one historically. Still do have just this amazing cultural relationship with the species. And so because of that, one of my first jobs coming out of law school was a pro bono matter that I was able to pick up, focusing on that work for my tribe. While at a big law firm working at a place my tribe couldn't have afforded the rates, we did pro bono work defending eel fishing rights. And it was super, super meaningful work. I learned a lot. I experienced the kinds of racism and, the things that open you up to what the world is, the dark underbelly in some ways. But we accomplished a lot by protecting unique tribal fishing rights in a way that sort of goes beyond the rules of Indian law, goes beyond whatever treaties were on paper. And the day-to-day, year-to-year management of keeping up with, those rights is it's a challenge mostly because of pressure on the resource, and so ensuring that the access the tribal members have, is economically meaningful so that we can put food on our tables. That tends to be the challenge. And so we're participating a lot now in natural resource management efforts, fish passage, watershed restoration, ensuring that the native eels for our homelands can come back and don't get chewed up by dams. That's the kind of stuff we're most focused on these days to protect our long-term ability to harvest eels.
There have been recent changes proposed by the Environmental Protection Agency to lessen certain protections under the Clean Water Act. Are you involved in any water rights issues right now around that topic?
We have a number of clients here at Drummond Woodsum that have concerns just with how Clean Water Act changes as a whole can come into play. So yeah, that's something we've been monitoring pretty closely here.
Corey, are there any other issues with regard to Native American law? I mean, it's such a wide field that you're not currently involved in, but you would be interested in pursuing other avenues.
Well, I'll tell you something that I've been learning a lot about in my own time. I don't really have clients that are asking to get this work done, but I think it's so important. It's protecting indigenous cultural property. It's the rights to our language, our art, our music, ensuring that the creative expressions of our people and our ancestors are protected in our names and not the names of museums and cultural anthropologists and people like Edward Curtis. I'm very attuned to like how we are the owners of our own intellectual property, and that hasn't occurred and hasn't been I think a cultural norm in the United States of America ever. And I think we are changing that. That has to change more. That's something I'm really interested in. Indigenous IP, I feel like, is something that we're going to be talking more and more about over the next couple of years.
Corey, thank you so much for coming on the show. We're going to wrap up here in just a couple of minutes, but I want to pivot back to Jade Blankenship, also a 40 under 40 honoree. She owns a salon, co-owner of a salon and spa in Cherokee, North Carolina. And Jade, this award, 40 under 40, it does carry some responsibility with it because it's not just an award. There's also a platform. Have you given any thought to what you want to do next and how you can build on this?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to be a leader in regards to other Indigenous women and young men who just kind of go through the process of going to school and not being able to figure it out and what's next for them. So given our financial literacy and just being an entrepreneur myself, like I would love to do partnerships and create relationships with other nonprofits that are out there mentoring Indigenous people in all types of different walks. I've met some people at Res before that did mentor mentees, individuals that may have been down a wrong path that were trying to get back into a different way of life and teaching them, life skills, stuff like that.
All right, well, we are out of time, so we're going to have to wrap up this conversation today. But big thanks to our 4 40 under 40 honorees who joined our show today to talk about this recognition: Jade Blankenship, Dakota Lewis, Corey Hinton, and also Dr. Michael Charles. Join us again on Monday for a look back at how the legacy of civil rights icon Martin Luther King is holding up among Native Americans. Our executive producer is Art Hughes. Our producers are Andy Murphy, Sol Traverso, and Joe Thompson. Marino Spencer is the engineer. Sho McPolin is the digital producer. Nola Daves Moses is the distribution director. Bob Peterson is the network manager for Native Voice One. Clifton Chadwick is our national underwriting sales director. Antonia Gonzalez is the anchor for National Native News. Charles Sather is our chief operations officer. The president and CEO of Koahnic Broadcast Corporation is Jacqueline Salih. I'm Sean Spruce. Have a safe weekend.
Support by the Gathering of Nations Powwow. The last dance is this April 24th and 25th at Expo, New Mexico. Main Street will be native Route 66 with classic cars, motorcycles, roving dance performances, and more. Tickets at gatheringofnations.com and at the gates.
Support for law and justice-related programming provided by Hobbs, Strauss, Dean & Walker, LLP, a national law firm dedicated to promoting and defending tribal rights for over 40 years. More information available at hobbsstrauss.com.
Who protects Indian country? Amerind does. As the only 100% tribally owned insurance carrier, Amerind helps strengthen tribal communities by providing reliable insurance coverage and keeping dollars in Indian country. From property and liability to commercial auto and tribal workers' compensation, Amerind is here to protect what matters. Celebrating 40 years of serving Indian country. Learn more at amerind.com. That's AMERIND.com.
Native America Calling is produced in the Annenberg National Native Voice Studios in Albuquerque, New Mexico by Koahnic Broadcast Corporation, a Native nonprofit media organization. Funding is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting with support from the Public Radio Satellite Service. Music is by Brent Michael Davids. Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.